You think heartbreak makes a sound when it shatters? It doesn't. It just sinks into your bones and freezes there, like Chicago snow in January. And I should know, because the night he left meaned our unborn child, I didn't hear anything. Just silence, colder than the wind tearing down Michigan Avenue. I can still see his back. Tall, broad, alpha shoulders retreating under the flickering yellow light of the street lamp. He didn't even slam the door, didn't look back. And maybe that was the cruelest part. No goodbye, no fight, just absence. I was left sitting on the edge of our bed, hands on my stomach, whispering promises to a life that hadn't even had a chance yet. Chicago winters are merciless, but that night, the cold didn't come from outside. It came from inside me, from the hollowness he carved into my chest. I never thought falling in love with Liam would lead here. He was fire and storm, an alpha who walked into my life like he owned the city, and maybe, in a way, he did. That confidence was intoxicating, like whiskey on an empty stomach, burning, dizzying, irresistible. Noah, an Omega who had never really believed in fate, suddenly found myself swept up in it. We met in the most unromantic place possible. A broken-down train car during a blizzard. The city had stopped, frozen by the storm, and there he was, sitting across from me with snow in his dark hair, smirking like he knew a secret no one else did. "Looks like we're stuck," he'd said, voice deep enough to vibrate through the steel walls. I remember rolling my eyes, hugging my coat tighter. "Yeah, well, unless you've got a snowplow in your pocket, I don't see us going anywhere." He laughed. God, that laugh. It was the kind of sound that made you forget your own name. By the time the city thawed, so had I. Against all odds, against everything I thought I wanted, Liam became my home. And then, just as suddenly, he destroyed it. The days after he left blurred together. I walked the streets like a ghost, the baby inside me the only tether keeping me from disappearing entirely. I didn't tell anyone. How could I? Who would understand that the man I loved had abandoned not just me, but the child we'd made together? I kept expecting him to come back. Every knock at the door, every vibration of my phone, I jolt like my body knew something my heart didn't. But weeks turned into months, and the silence between us grew like ice on the lake, thick and unbreakable. Chicago didn't care about my grief. The train still ran, the skyscrapers still gleamed against the winter sun, and people still rushed past me on sidewalks, coffee in hand, scarves pulled high. Life moved on, but I couldn't. I was stuck in that night, replaying it over and over, trying to find the moment where I could have stopped him from leaving. I told myself I hated him. I told myself I was better off. But every time my hand rested on my stomach, I thought of Liam's eyes, the way they softened when he looked at me, the way they shone when he first whispered, "We're going to be parents." And the hate dissolved into something messier, something I couldn't name. The truth is, Omegas like me aren't supposed to raise children alone. Society whispers it everywhere: billboards, family gatherings, even the disapproving glance of strangers in the grocery store aisle. An Omega without an alpha is like a bird with broken wings. But I wasn't broken. I couldn't afford to be. I worked 2 jobs, dragging my exhausted body through endless nights at the diner and mornings at the bookstore. Every dollar went into saving for the baby. I told myself that love was a luxury I couldn't afford anymore, not when survival demanded everything I had left. And then, just when I thought I'd buried him in the past, Liam came back. It was a rainy afternoon, spring barely clawing its way into the city, when I saw him standing across the street. He looked the same, too much the same. Broad shoulders, jaw sharp as a knife, hair damp with rain. But his eyes, they weren't the same. They weren't arrogant anymore. They were haunted. "Noah," he said, voice breaking like it never had before. And suddenly, the wound I'd carried for months tore open all over again. I wish I could say I slammed the door in his face. I wish I could say I told him he didn't deserve to even know about the child he abandoned. But instead, I stood frozen, my son sleeping in the crib behind me, my heart beating like a trapped bird in my chest. "You don't get to say my name?" I whispered, my voice sharper than the rain pelting the glass between us. His throat worked, but no words came out. He just looked at me, drenched, desperate, and I hated him for it. Hated how even now, after everything, part of me still ached for him. Go, I said, before I remember what it felt like to love you. But he didn't move. And deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. Forgiveness is a strange thing. People think it's a choice you make once, like flipping a switch. But in truth, it's something you do every day. Every time the past tries to strangle you. Every time the pain resurfaces in small and unexpected ways. With Liam, forgiveness wasn't instant. It was messy, like everything about us had always been. But as the weeks turned into months, and his presence in my life slowly began to feel less like an intrusion and more like a rhythm I had once known, I found myself letting go piece by piece. There were nights I'd wake to find him on the floor beside our son's crib, too afraid to sleep in case the baby stirred and needed him. There were mornings I'd catch him humming off-key while making formula, shoulders tense but movements tender, as though he were terrified of breaking something precious. And there were moments, the quiet ones, when he'd look at me with so much remorse in his eyes I couldn't hold on to my anger, no matter how much I tried. He didn't ask for forgiveness. Not once. Instead, he earned it in the only way that mattered, by staying. The first real thaw between us came one night in March. Snow had melted into dirty slush outside, the streets slick and gray, but inside our little apartment the air was warm with the scent of baby lotion and the soft crackle of the heater. I was rocking Micah in my arms when Liam's voice, low and unsteady, broke the silence. I thought I was protecting you, he whispered. I didn't answer right away. I didn't trust myself not to break apart. I was drowning Noah, he continued, his voice cracking in the middle of my name. My familiar father threatened to take everything from us. Said he'd bury us under debts and lawsuits, that he'd make sure our child never saw the light of day if I didn't walk away. And I was a coward. I chose the wrong kind of strength. I thought leaving would keep you safe. Micah stirred in my arms, and I held him tighter, my throat closing. You don't get to call it protection, I finally said, my voice sharp as glass. You left me to bleed alone. You left him before he even had a chance. Liam's hands shook where they rested on his knees. He didn't look up. I know, and I'll never forgive myself for it. But I came back because I couldn't keep lying to myself. Because even if I lost everything, I couldn't keep losing you. Something inside me cracked then, not forgiveness. Not yet. But the recognition that beneath all the wreckage, the man I'd loved was still there, fighting in the only way he knew how. Spring turned to summer, and with it came small, fragile moments of healing. Liam was clumsy with Micah, but the baby adored him in a way that was almost cruel in its innocence. I'd catch them sprawled together on the carpet, Micah's tiny fist tangled in Liam's hair, Liam laughing softly as if the sound itself might scare him away. I wanted to stay angry. Anger had been my armor, my shield against the nights of loneliness and fear. But watching them together, seeing the father Liam was trying so desperately to become, I realized anger wasn't enough anymore. I wanted love, and that terrified me. The real test came in autumn, nearly a year after Liam's return. We were at the lakefront, the air crisp with the smell of wet leaves and the faint promise of winter. Micah toddled between us, his tiny boots crunching on the gravel, and for a moment we looked like any other family, whole, untouched by betrayal. But then Liam stopped walking, his hand tightening around mine. His eyes were on the horizon, but his words were for me. Noah, he said softly, I know I don't deserve another chance, but I want one. Not just to be Micah's father, but to be yours again. The world seemed to still around us, the waves lapping against the shore, the cries of gulls overhead, even the wind tangled in my hair. I thought about the nights I cried alone, the weight of raising a child with no one to lean on. I thought about the way he'd broken me so completely I wasn't sure I'd ever stand again. And then I thought about the man standing beside me now, his hand trembling in mine, his heart laid bare. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I bent down, scooped Micah into my arms, and pressed a kiss to his warm cheek. Then I turned to Liam. If you want another chance, I said, voice steady despite the storm inside me, you earn it every single day. No more leaving. No more running. You stay. Always. His eyes shone with unshed tears, and for the first time in so long, I believed him when he said, I will. Winter came again, as it always does in Chicago, harsh, unrelenting, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones. But this time it didn't feel as lonely. Our apartment was filled with the sounds of Micah's laughter, the warmth of shared dinners, the quiet hum of two people learning how to fit together again. There were still scars, still nights when silence felt heavier than words, but little by little, we rebuilt something stronger than what had broken. One night, as snowflakes drifted past the window, Liam pulled me close on the couch. Micah was asleep in his crib, the apartment wrapped in a rare, gentle quiet. I don't deserve this, Liam whispered into my hair. I leaned against him, my hand finding his. Maybe not, but sometimes love isn't about what we deserve. It's about what we choose. He kissed me then soft, hesitant, like he was afraid I might vanish. And I kissed him back, not because I'd forgotten the past, but because I finally believed in the future. Forgiveness didn't erase the wound, but it made space for healing. And on those long Chicago nights, with snow falling like ash outside and the warmth of my family around me, I realized something I never thought I would again. I was no longer wandering. I was home. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.